Hello and welcome, everyone. Tonight we have a wonderful speaker. I actually don't know whether to call her Mary or Meredith, but we'll go with Meredith Griesbach. And hopefully tonight we can have some really interesting questions that you yourself will bring forward for Meredith. Before we get going, we'll just run through the things that we really need to get across. As always, we like to make sure that everybody has a chance to put forward their needs. If you have friends and family who might be joining us, this can be watched in replay or it can be watched live. Now, assuming that you drop in soon, please tell friends and family and share it with them so that we can get as many people as possible to understand what's coming up for them and how they can heal themselves, and also to promote these people who are offering their time to the general public to offer information. Now, I'm Roy Fensom and I do Healing Within. I also do my own business, which is Moon and Mask, which is a retail business, as well as the therapeutic business. So if you're interested in that side of the aspect, please contact me either on the Messenger or Moon and Mask. Now, the question is, do you have something to share with others? If you do, whether it's an oil, an unguent, comments, whether you have a particular healing system, any of these, and you think other people can benefit from having these issues brought to the fore, please contact me at roy@moonandmask.com.au and I will try to make communication with you and we will try and set something up as soon as we possibly can. Now, next week we will have, now according to my booklet, it should be Callista Clarizio, who will hopefully be bringing some words of wisdom about Ayurvedic medicines and the healing prospects therein. Now, at any time within the broadcast, if you feel you're interested in the topics that are shown here or maybe other topics that might be shown, please type heal into the comments and this will then take you to a bot who will keep track of you and you will be notified of any upcoming broadcasts so that you can tie into that. Hi Ros, glad to have you on board. We are just about to get into the hurry-curry of the actual show. Tonight, as I said, we have Meredith with us, who is a transpersonal art psychotherapist, also an author of Creative Rebel, excuse my French, and a freelance writer. Meredith has a passion to help people who are looking for ways to manage the hard stuff of life. Through her own life experiences, she has developed a unique insight and philosophy around healing from trauma and brings a highly personal and empathic approach to her art therapy practice. She believes that everyone holds the power to heal themselves and that her role as therapist is to walk amongst or alongside as people find creative solutions to their problems. The creative process is inherent. Oh, I think I need a glass of water. Too many big words. The creative process is inherently therapeutic, and when coupled with a skilled facilitator, oh, great, can offer a completely new perspective. When words fail, art speaks. Her journey to self-discovery has led her to her life's purpose, and nothing makes her happier than bringing her expertise to help others do the same. And if that's a bio, you can expect a wonderful comment as we go along. So I'm going to bring her up and hopefully you will be able to ask a multitude of questions. Hi, Meredith. How are you?
Hey, Roy. How are you going? Hi, everybody. I'm seeing some familiar faces popping up already.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just run them up on the screen so they don't get jealous. We got hello to Roz. How
Hey,
are you,
Rob.
Roz? Lovely to have you on board. Hi, Adair. Lovely that you could drop in
Hi
tonight.
there.
Alison Cole says hello to everyone. So everyone, if you have the chance, respond back, little balloons. It looks like Adair's already done that, so that's good. Thank you from Alair. Whoa, here we go. Adair says she's looking forward to talking to Meredith. It seems that you've got a
Hey
following
there.
already, Meredith.
Yeah.
Not sure if you do this, but will moving help my husband? Unfortunately, you have chosen the wrong show, Dee. We don't do readings or that form of. I say this, and yet it may be we can answer something along that line during the show. So, and then we have Amira Ramal, I think it is, Ramlal, who says, hi, Meredith. So that's another one
Hi,
that's
Rhea.
coming your way. Now, where did this all start is the question, Meredith.
Wow, that's a big question, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so I guess starting from the beginning is a good place to start. I decided to become an art therapist as a result of my own healing journey. So I began after the loss of my son to suicide, and I was really lost. I was finding that all sorts of therapies were not helping me. I was going to psychologists and talk therapy, and I felt like I was just retelling my story over and over again. And I wasn't making any progress, and I was actually just re-traumatizing myself. And through the process of, I don't know, looking for meaning, I guess, I've discovered art as a way of healing for myself through the wonderful services of a lovely art gallery who helped me do a painting, which I'll tell you a bit more about later. And in that process, I met an art therapist who was in training at the time, and she was telling me about how art therapy heals and how it works. So I was very taken with the idea, and I thought that maybe this was the way forward for me. So I continued with my art, and I found it very therapeutic and healing in itself. Fast forward another 5 or 6 years, I held on to that idea of becoming an art therapist. I couldn't afford to do it at the time. And then it was then funded by the government. The government came on board and said, we will offer a government loan for students studying art therapy. So I said, now is my time, jumped in and became a transpersonal art therapist in the hopes that I can share some of the wonderful things that I've learned about the healing aspects of art and creativity, and how you can access parts of your mind that can facilitate healing and growth that the normal cognitive learned behaviours that we have and the conditioning that we have tend to squash down and are inaccessible. Yeah. That's a very short synopsis.
Oh, thank heavens for that, he says. It says psychotherapist, so I take it that you've done training in other areas just besides therapy.
Yeah, I did the advanced diploma in transpersonal art therapy, which is grounded in psychotherapeutic models. So art therapy is a psychotherapeutic tool. It's based on all of the learnings and theories going back from Carl Jung to Carl Rogers, and many, many different therapists have come along the way and expanded on those themes of archetypes and being able to access the subconscious. So it has a psychotherapeutic basis, and what we learned was a form of psychotherapy using art.
Wonderful. The art that we're talking about, what sort of forms does it take? Is it just like anything comes, or is it a very structured thing, or how does it work?
Okay, so it's not structured in the sense that we don't all sit in the same room and draw the same things. It's very much intuitive. It's all about what's going on for you in the process of the making, not about the end product. So we call it art therapy, but really it's a creative therapy. It's actually getting hands-on with art materials to facilitate a different way of thinking or different perspectives. And you don't need any skill in art making to do it. If you can do a squiggly line, you can do art therapy. It's really that simple. So to give you an example, a client may come to me and they're really not sure how to put into words, and this is where art therapy comes in really valuable. They're not really sure how to articulate what it is that's bothering them, or the emotion is so big and so hairy that they can't find a word that encompasses it. So I would say to them, okay, let's try and give that feeling or those emotions a shape and a colour and put them down on a page. And then that person would then maybe draw some kind of shape. Might be just squiggles or it might be circles, whatever comes out. And then we hold that work up and we process it in a very specific way. So there is method to the madness. So it's kind of free flowing in terms of I follow the client. It's very client based and I follow your lead and I walk with you, but there is a structure to it. There is a way of me facilitating that will draw out of you some answers that you maybe hadn't seen before.
I know we used to do some work down at the RSL on Dawes Road.
Oh, yes.
And they had an art room down there, and some of the work there was frightening to say the least. But when the stories came out about the pictures that they put up on the walls, the transition for these people who had been through the wars, so to speak, and releasing that through the different colours. I was most impressed with the outcomes a lot of these people are getting, because they bottle it. They don't allow these emotions from the past out. And it seems that the art really allows them to put that darkness to a better use. Do you do any work down there, or
not down there? I work mostly out of my own practice. I've got my own studio in Seacliff. People can come to me there, and I run workshops and individual counselling there. So I work mostly there, although I can be mobile. So if somebody was to have a group that they wanted me to come and visit, for instance, I could pack up my art materials and come and see them and run it off-site. But most of my therapy comes from within my own studio.
We have a response from Alison who says, "It's very creative. Well done, Meredith. That's amazing."
Thanks, Alison.
Little things. Spiritual artists are amazing storytellers.
Yeah, true. But I believe that we're all amazing storytellers. We only need the tools to be able to do it. We've just forgotten.
Yeah, you're also a skilled facilitator, I take it, not just an art therapist.
Yeah, I mean, I facilitate groups for specific workshops. Usually they have a component of art therapy about them. That's the kind of workshop that I facilitate. Or I can be called into other people's I don't know, training days or workplace sessions or whatever, and I can be hired to come in and run an art therapy program that is designed especially for the outcome that they're hoping for. So, for instance, if it's to enhance communication in the workplace, then I can bring the art therapy process to bear to try and improve the communication between employees and that sort of thing. So it can be used in a corporate level, or it can be used on an individual level, and it can be used in a very spiritual level. So as an art therapist, you kind of tread both worlds, both the spiritual shamanic kind of line and the more conservative corporate kind of line. So you can kind of work your way into both arenas.
It seems that Adair is pushing your bucket for you. I've done art therapy with Mags in the studio, the live broadcast on community TV with Adair on mytimetv.live, and it was brilliant.
It was
And,
brilliant too.
and that was a private advert for My Time TV, I'm sure. And we got one from Theone, and we used her space for our last meetup, and it was awesome.
Thanks, Theone. Yeah, that's the other thing, is my studio is available for hire. So if people do have groups that they want to get together, they can hire my space for a half day or a full day. And, you know, it's quite a large space. It's a big studio area, and it has a kitchen out the back and its own bathroom. So it's quite versatile.
Opens up a few doors for me too.
Yeah.
Now, I was reading something here, and now I've lost track of where I was. Your journey of self-discovery has led you to your life's purpose.
Yeah.
Do you care to walk down that road?
Sure, I can do that. How many days have you got?
We've got at least 40 minutes to play with, so you're good.
Super. Okay. Look, I guess the easiest thing for me to do, first of all, is to tell you that I've written a book about this. So,
and the book is?
And the book is, hang on, let me get it in the right spot.
I'll take your name down so that people can just get a good look at it. Just give me a second. There we go. Right.
There we go. Creative Rebel.
Creative Rebel. Lovely. Anybody's interested in that, you can get this via Messenger on Facebook through Meredith. So tune in there and get a copy of the book. $25?
It's $29. Yep.
$29, sorry.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things that probably I can say about that. The book talks about my journey really as from a childhood right through to adulthood, and the trials and tribulations that I've had along the way, including childhood trauma through almost losing my father, and then later on losing my father, and the fallout from having a very ill father in all the years between. So that meant that there was a certain amount of feelings of being neglected as a child. Then I got into a abusive relationship. So I'm a domestic violence survivor. And so I talk a little bit in the book about that as well. And I've had to overcome a lot of adversity during that time. I had 2 children to that man, and my eldest son suffered a lot of trauma from that relationship. And that's what I believe led to him taking his own life at a later stage. So it's the journey through my experiences and me looking back on it and understanding why I made the decisions I made, and how one thing flowed on to another, and how events in life can predispose you to making certain decisions and putting yourself in harm's way. And that's basically what I did. And then it goes through my journey to self-discovery following that, and understanding that you can heal and you can learn from adversity, and you can actually turn those learnings, that wisdom that you've gained over the years, into a strength and power forward, and then use it for the benefit of others. So, yeah, that's a synopsis of that. I'm happy to go as deep as you want with it, Roy, but I don't know how deep you want to go.
Oh, we come back to it.
Yeah.
Something that, from my point of view, if I was, we've just had a response from Theone, so I better put it up there, and it says, such a sad part of your life, which has led you to lead such a positive life. So that's wonderful from there.
Thanks, Theone. Yeah, that's very true.
And Adair says, you're a remarkable woman, Meredith. Hugs and much love to you.
Thanks, lovely.
Yeah, isn't it great to have friends like that? Yeah. Now, from the point of view of myself, if I was in a situation where I thought I needed art therapy as an outlet, what would I sort of have go through, sort of throw us through the typical coming in, the greeting, what's the sort of setup, and that sort of thing, so that people, if they are heading down this path, might know what to expect.
Sure. Well, it's different for everyone, of course. Depends on the reasons why you're coming to see me. But I guess the standard thing would be that you should know that when you come to art therapy in my space, it's a safe space. It's a space of no mistakes. Every answer is the right answer. I really believe that you are the expert of you, and I'm there really just to assist. I'm bound by the same confidentiality requirements as any other form of counsellor. So anything that happens in the art therapy studio is between you and me, and it doesn't go any further. So it's a very, I guess, comfortable space to be in to express. So there's no requirement on you to say or do any more than you feel comfortable to do. I can work with you even if you don't want to tell me what your issue is. So you can come in and just say, I've just got something and I just need to work through it. And we can work with that through the art. And we don't, because we talk about the art, we don't talk about the issue specifically. And that's where it's so clever, because it bypasses all of your inbuilt alarm systems that come on. Because you can imagine whenever you start talking about a problem, immediately your defense systems are already up. You're already in a state of alert because it's distressing. It's something that's bothering you. And it's very hard to have clear thought when you're already in that state of mind. So by talking about the art, we're not actually talking directly about the problem. We're talking sort of from a side angle. And that allows you to remain calm and for your mind to make connections that potentially were not able to be made before because you were in this heightened alert state.
Brilliant. Now, we've just had a comment from Roz that says, I enjoyed going to the Weaver meetup in your space, Meredith.
Yeah, it was good seeing you too.
I'm not sure what Weaver is, but I take it it's something that is very exciting.
Women in Business Adelaide.
See, it's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
I lost track of where I was. Oh, yes. Whilst I was listening to that commentary, I was thinking there must be a lot of aspects where people suddenly release a lot of emotion during their art therapies.
Yes.
Not to seem cruel, but I mean, is there a way to sort of segregate them so from the area you're in so that they can release, or is it just a general room for release as well?
Okay, so that would depend a little bit on what kind of situation it was in. So that would not, I wouldn't put people in that position until I was sure that everyone felt comfortable and safe with each other. For instance, in a workshop, the first part of the workshop would always be around establishing connection, establishing safe space, and support for each other, so that people are comfortable to express. What I find generally happens is that people won't go there if they think it's going to be too much. So they tend to pull me aside and sort of say, you know, I'm finding this a little bit hard. And we might we usually can find a way around that somehow. So for instance, to give you an example, I had an experience where we were doing some, and I won't breach any confidences because I won't mention names or when or where.
We don't expect that.
But we were in a group, and we were, it was a group where we were doing a activity based on kintsugi, which is the art of repair, Japanese art of repair. So we were encompassing all of our past hurts and pains in a ceramic bowl, then ritually smashing the bowl, and then repairing it with gold.
Oh, right.
And one of the attendees because I always ask before we do each step of the process, you know, is everyone feeling comfortable? Has anyone got any concerns? And one of them said to me, I'm a bit afraid that if I release this, it might hurt somebody. So on a metaphoric level. So she wasn't thinking about the ceramic flying off. She was thinking about, if I release all my pain out into the universe, I'm frightened
somebody else here.
To rebound and hit someone else and ricochet, cause problems, havoc for other people.
Right.
So the way we managed that was, we said, okay, so would you feel better if we kept the whole thing very, very contained, and we wrapped up the piece of ceramic so that the bits can't fly anywhere, and we all held safe space for her. So as she was smashing her pot, we all came in really close, and this was quite organic. All of the other participants just organically felt for her and just moved in and surrounded her and kept her feeling very cocooned and safe. And she released a lot in that moment. Like, it was very, very cathartic for her, but also quite challenging. And
sometimes that's very cathartic for the people that are there as well, to be able to
absolutely
offer that.
It was a very emotionally charged moment, you know, and everybody, the tears, there were, you know, but it was extremely, I don't know, I felt very, very privileged to witness that, to be able to witness the care that everybody in the room had for each other, and how everyone just drew in, and they could see that this person was struggling, and everyone came together to support. And that's kind of what happens in the groups, I find. I haven't really had a situation where anyone's felt like they need to run screaming from the room yet.
There's still plenty of time.
And that's only over dinner. But I say to people throughout all of my sessions, if at any time you're feeling like it's getting overwhelming for you, please don't leave the premises. It's okay for you to remove yourself from the room if you feel like you need to take some air, but please don't leave the premises. I want to make sure you're safe. And then I'll put the group in a holding pattern, and then I'll go and just check that they're okay.
We've had a very large response here from Dee. I will put it up and I'll read it at the same time. My grandson is 12, extreme anxiety, autistic, ADHD, etc. He only goes to school 1 hour a day and in year 7, and extremely clingy to me. It was suggested we do art therapy. We found a beautiful lady in Cairns, and I'm amazed at the end of the session what he has expressed. As he is non-verbal when upset and can't express feelings. I'm very amazed. And I'd say that would be not so much atypical as very typical of the responses.
Yeah, definitely. There are people, I tend to work mostly with adults, but there are some people here in Adelaide who work a lot with children, and with anyone who has any kind of sensory challenges, or any who are non-verbal or have emotional regulation problems, art therapy can be hugely beneficial. You know, we can use art therapy not only to let them express, but also to help them become a little less sensitive to different textures and sounds and things like that. So we can assist them to integrate new experiences into their life and not be quite so volatile. So there's a lot of work that can be done with people, with kids and with adults, actually, with anxiety or with ADHD or autism, anyone on the spectrum. It's even used on the more extreme end with people who have personality disorders, schizophrenia, psychoactive disorders. All sorts of different things can be integrated with art therapy to help them to self-regulate.
Well, if there's anybody who happens to be listening in on this who knows of somebody who's going through something like we have just mentioned, this will be going, I would hope, worldwide in any case, but I'm hoping at least Australia that if you see this and it's of interest to you now or in 6 months, doesn't matter, please contact Meredith and maybe get some more information. Even if you're interstate, it's good to talk to somebody who has information on the topic, and they can generally point you in the correct direction.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Do you have like art aspects for grief and loss?
Yeah, this is one of the areas that I probably work the most in. So grief and loss and post-trauma are the two areas that I'm probably the most busy with, if that's a way of saying it. And that's really the driving force behind why I became an art therapist, was because I wanted to help people who'd been through similar things to me, and were having the same struggles with therapy and healing, to give them another outlet. So grief and loss, definitely. There's a lot of work to be done there. And art therapy can be hugely beneficial in that, because sometimes those emotions are just way too big to be able to talk about.
If I can just cut in for a second, Carla Marie Edwards has just sent in a comment. I have 2 children with severe anxiety from trauma, both seeing psychologists. We're in Adelaide. I'd love to chat a bit more, please. Now, Carla, if you have a particular question that you would like to ask, you're more than welcome to put it up there, and it will help others. And I'm sure that after the show, if you go to Meredith's site, which I will now just, I will get the Innersee Creative address when really good. Excuse me for not doing this before. I should have. I will put that up there and put that up on the board. Me a line, Carla. Yep. And we have another question from Crystal, who has stated, would help with CPSTD symptoms?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I put the link there in the comments. You're more than welcome to tap onto that and get in touch with Meredith on that side. I won't put your normal Facebook page up. That's asking for trouble. So sorry, I cut you off in sort of midstream there with grief and loss, and I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of difficulty in expressing what's going on with grief and loss. For some people, they're able to simply put it through their mind, and a couple of weeks, and they're back in the crux of the normal people. But there's a lot of people that hold on to these emotions and they can't release, and they need an outlet but don't know how to do it. It just seems to me that art, in the way you've been speaking of it up to now, it's a self-expressive art. So it's a lot easier to talk about the art than it is the grief itself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that in our Western world, we don't do death and loss very well. We don't support people in the way that they deserve to be supported. We have this idea that grief is a linear process, that we should go through all the stages of grief. You know, we've all heard the 5 stages of grief, you know, the rage, whatever.
We did a broadcast on that a couple of weeks back. It's
the truth of the matter is that it doesn't go in a straight line.
No, it never does.
It's all over the place, and different aspects of grief can jump up at you at any moment, and it's a little bit like trauma in that way. It can blindside you, so you can think that you've recovered and you're moving on with your life, and then it comes up and wham, it hits you in the face with another reminder, or you know, for some reason, you know, you're suddenly finding yourself being thrown over with waves of grief again, and you don't know why. And it's because we don't address grief well right from the beginning. We don't honour it in the way it deserves. We don't give people the time that they deserve. And so it's not fully resolved. We have all this expectation that we should be able to throw it off and move on and get on with life. And you don't.
We tend to, I mean, a lot in the East, they have a lot of calming rituals that you can go through, different processes. You can go to the temple, you can burn
Yeah.
incense, you can do this, you can have a little space on the counter for the parents and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But in the West, as I say, we go through the 5 stages mostly. But the interesting part is people think it's going to be in a particular format. I'm going to go through this and some of this, and then they get to the part where they're now accepting of the loss, and they think, finally, I've come to the end of it. And then 6 months down the track, they're going through the regrets, which is a form that they may have skipped over the top of, and all of a sudden they're coming back and they don't know. All of a sudden, what the heck do I do now? I thought I'd accepted all of this stuff. Boom! It's all coming back to bite me again. One of the things that we've started doing, we did a couple of a few years ago, was dinner with death. So that people, the idea was you come to dinner and the only topic that you can expect to discuss is death. And it's funny how the night starts so quiet and so slow. But generally by the second course, everybody's chatting. You know, Grandpa died and we went through this and blah, 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 blah. And they realise that everybody goes through it. And even children go through it. And their responses are totally different again. And Dee has sent in another one. Both my grandson and I were very worried, as we had no idea what it was. We thought it was drawing art, but first session he went for aggression and agitated 3 activities later, and 1 hour he was relaxed, not wanting to leave, interpreting what he'd done. So that shows probably the both sides, your aspect in the art therapy, and then the outcomes that can be expected if you take the time to just be gentle and go over what you're doing.
That's a great example of what can happen in art therapy, I think, is that I think a lot of people have that fear, and not just children but adults as well have the fear that I, as a therapist, am going to interpret or diagnose you from your art and say, oh my gosh, you're drawing all in black, you must be psycho. That doesn't happen. It's your interpretation that counts, and it's a very client-centered approach. So that's why children respond really well to it, because it's really all about them, and it's believing them. Their reality is reality. Who am I to say it's wrong? And that's true for adults as well. If you come to me and you tell me it's so, who am I to say it isn't? I'm just going to, that's your reality, and I'm going with that, and we're going to work through it together. And I think that's why kids respond so well.
A while back, I can't think exactly how long, and I'm lousy at, I like to go to the art gallery and have a look, but I'm useless at artists, so I really don't know who did it. The idea was that the artist painted the entire 6-foot canvas. It was 6 foot wide and 9 foot tall. Painted the entire thing black, and then put a white dot in the middle. And the aspect was, it didn't matter how dark it was, everybody noticed the light. Yes. They saw the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
That's right. That's the interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's how most people saw it, the light at the end of the tunnel. And that wasn't his plan, of course. It was just to show that it can be terribly black out there, but you'll notice something in there that's worthwhile.
And everyone interpreted it as light at the end of the tunnel. How interesting.
Well, most people did.
It is interesting, and that probably brings me to the next part about why art therapy is really valuable, because everyone's interpretation is going to be individual. In the same way, I don't know what it feels like for you if you burn your finger. Like, you know what that pain feels like, but the messages to your brain are interpreted in a very individual way. So there's no way of me knowing exactly what you feel. I know you're feeling pain, and I know what it would feel like if I burnt my finger, but I don't know if it's the same sensation that you're feeling.
And we all also have different levels of
correct
pain that we can accept.
So in art therapy, we use something called phenomenology. So that 3 times fast.
No, thank you.
So phenomenology is really based on the idea that your experience of something is valid and real, even if I can't relate to it. So your experience of what you're experiencing is true and it's your reality. And we work with that in art therapy. I don't try and impose what I think you should be feeling or are feeling or thinking. And I don't impose what I think your art means. You're the one who knows what everything means in your art. And we actually try to move away from talking about, for instance, if you were to say, oh, this is my family, I've drawn my family, this round thing over here and this square thing over here and this triangle, this is my family.
Right.
What I would try to do in an art therapy session is to move away from the actual reality of that story and get into a metaphor. So we would turn the art around and we would say, okay, imagine this isn't your drawing. What else could it be? And you might say, oh, okay, well, the triangle and the circle look almost like an ice cream. And the square looks like a door. And then we would have a conversation about, okay, so is the ice cream inside or outside? Is the ice cream talking to the door? And like all sorts of stuff happens. And we work through metaphor. And the wonderful thing about that is that's how our subconscious thinks. So if you think about the dream state, we dream in metaphor. A lot of our dreams are not literal. They're metaphoric in nature. And this is the language of the subconscious. So when we're talking in metaphor through the art, we're allowing the subconscious to have a voice and come forward with some stuff that maybe you hadn't consciously thought of before. And your mind will make the connections and little thought bubbles pop up. And you go, oh, actually, I hadn't thought about that. I didn't think that those two really could be that close together, or whatever comes up. And so you're making these metaphoric connections which have some kind of meaning for you in real life, and you start to integrate those ideas and come up with new perspectives.
Excuse me. And every time I switch to come up and ask you a question, I forget what the question is. I'm so trying to concentrate on what you're saying. Before we go any further, and while I'm trying to gather my mind up together, is there any courses or any classes coming up that you might want to make people aware of, so that you can take it for as long as you like, because we don't know when people are going to end up watching the show. It could be 3 months down the track. So if there's regular ones, you might want to tell them what the regular ones are. And if there's something local, make sure you get the date into it. Otherwise, they'll just drop in unadvised.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a few things coming up. I don't run my workshops regularly. I run them when I feel there's a need for them, or when there's interest. So probably the next one, which is coming up actually in 2 days on Sunday, the 22nd of September, is my Wisdom Keeper workshop, which is just it's actually just a little half day, really nice little workshop where we do a bit of mindful meditation. We get in touch with our ancestors, and that informs then the colour scheme that we use, and we create a Wisdom Keeper doll using metaphor. Using now I'm losing it. Using needle felting and the metaphor of the colour from your ancestors. So we create little dolls. Go on my Facebook page, you'll see pictures of the little Wisdom Keeper dolls that we make. And we have a nice cup of tea and a good chat. So that's a fairly light-hearted kind of, just a nice community thing to do. The next one I've got coming up is in Kangaroo Island. So if anyone's in Kangaroo Island, on the 13th of October, I've got the workshop called Treasures, which is based on the kintsugi that I was talking about before, where we break the ceramic and heal it with gold. That one's a full-day workshop, and that's coming up in Kingscote on the 13th of October. On the 19th of October, I've got a workshop called Unleashed, which is really about breaking through the barriers of your own creativity blocks. So if you are scared about doing art, or you're just a bit too hooked up on the perfectionism that you can't move forward with your artwork because you're a bit stuck, Unleashed is a really good one to come along to really break through and break free of any barriers that you might have around art making. It's a fun day. It's lots of tribal beats and expressive arts and movement. And we, sometimes we literally even throw paint at the wall if you want to get that messy. So it's
like
very
a fun
much,
day.
yeah, it's very much like just let's go with it and just throw stuff around and see what happens. So that's a really fun one. That's a full day workshop. And then I haven't got anything else coming up until the 2nd of February, where I'm running the treasured one here in Adelaide, which is the Kintsugi one again. And I've also got, I'll be at the Whole Life Expo. If anyone wants to come along and say hi, I'll be at the Whole Life Expo on the 5th and 6th of October this year. So you can come and say hi. I'm running a workshop on the Sunday. Or you can just come to my stall and say good day and have a chat and have a little 15-minute taste session of art therapy and see if you like it. See if you like me.
Well, if they don't, they won't be watching the show.
Oh, no, it's getting late in the day. I'm getting a bit silly. But yeah, the Whole Life Expo is somewhere where people can come along and just meet me face to face and have a chat and pick up a copy of the book if they want, or just find out a little bit more about what I do. And coming up in November, I hope, or perhaps early December, I will have a short online course for people to be doing, just a little short introduction to what art therapy can do. Yeah. So,
well, that's good. So if anybody watches this in a rewind or is watching it now and is interested in maybe just giving this a bit of a face up and a bit of a try, sounds like the November course would be a good way to sort of get an idea of what's going on and how it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's not facilitated in the same way, in the sense that I'm not there holding your hand, working you through individually. It's more so you won't get the real sense of what an art therapy session is, but you will get an understanding of how accessing your creative brain can help you with problem solving and intuitive thinking. Yeah.
Wonderful. We're getting there. Is there anything that we have not discussed that you would like to get across? I noticed that you mentioned that you're doing ancestor meditations. Do you have classes on that as well, or is that just a sort of a once-off every now and again?
It's something that I integrate into a lot of my workshops, actually. I call in the assistance of the ancestors to help us with supporting us or to give us some insight. So it helps to tune in, I think, to our own spirituality and to help us go within. So, yeah, I don't necessarily do ancestor meditations on their own. They're usually as part of some sort of workshop that I'm doing.
Wonderful. Now, back to where we were. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that we should discuss before you have to close? Because we've still got about probably another 10 minutes to go. So I'd like to try and get as much as of what you want to get across done, so that people have a broad aspect of what it is you do and how it affects.
Okay, well, I don't know what else I can say, really. Yeah, I mean, individual counselling is something that is very close to my heart. I think that people go in very deep and are able to do a lot of healing on an individual basis. And in that, we will use all sorts of techniques. So it might not be just drawing or painting. It could easily be using clay or movement or, I don't know, writing notes on things, smashing them up in a blender and then making paper, and there's so many things that we can do.
That's different. I like the sound of that one. Yeah. That's different. Do you do the sessions on their own, just on their own, or is it always with some other format thrown in, such as the blending of paper or clay? Or
The individual sessions really are client-driven, like 100% client-driven. So if you come in for an individual session, then we will see what it is that you need. It'll unfold throughout the session, and I will provide you the tools to achieve that. So if you were to create something, for instance, and then you would say that, you know, this is the monster of my life, I really hate it and I just want to get rid of it, then we might even realistically rip it up or you know, destroy it in some way so that you can have a sense of empowerment. So it's really all about what it is you need in the moment that helps you move to the next step in your healing. So step-by-step approach.
Yeah, I'm actually hearing a lot of other formats from the spiritual aspect coming through, because I see like the paper mashing and stuff like that. The groups that decide that on the full moon that they will make out their list of things that they don't want in their life anymore, put it out in the moon, tear it up, burn it, bury it, do something with it. They're very small things, but they tend to have very emotional outlay for the people who are doing them. So it's not just
a lot in art therapy. We incorporate the spiritual aspect in it a lot, in the sense that we tune into what it is that your soul really needs. So it might be, you know, whether it might be a letting go of something, and let's face it, most problems that we have are either because we want to let go of something or we want to bring something in to our lives. And so we either are creating intention or we're releasing. So that's, you know, really in most cases, it's one of those things. And so we create in an art therapy session or in a series of sessions, a whole program that will facilitate that. And, you know, in some cases, we might even create an entire ritual dedicated to whatever it is that you're trying to make a transition with.
There are a couple of, I'm probably going around in circles here. There's a woman who is up at Mount Barker who runs a great many women's aspects. And if you don't mind, I would send you her name, because she has a facility up there where if you decide to do a retreat that was heading in this direction, I think she would have a line of people as well as your own that might be interested in doing something over a weekend.
Sounds lovely. I'm very keen to collaborate with others, and you know, I'd love to be able to be part of a retreat or even run retreats down the track at some point. So
I've got a couple of lists, but this one sort of came to mind, and I tend to go with, when I get connections with other people, I like to think that there's something there that might be of value to both people. So I will, excuse me a moment while I just make a note that I've got to contact you with that. Contact with retreat name. She's a lovely woman. I've been up there a couple of times, and she does massage as well, but she also does a couple of regular women's, how to describe it? It's women getting in touch with their feminine aspects, put it that way. And I'm sure that she would love to be able to bring some of this into some of her courses. And yeah, it would be nice if we can get more people to do that. I don't know. There was something else I wanted to get out there. Oh, heavens. I hate it when I lose. I didn't write it down. That's the problem. And that's always a problem with me. I've got to write everything down, or I forget to ask you the question because I'm so interested in what you're saying. We've been through all the comments that I'm aware of. We've had some good responses. Is there any, can you just go over the book maybe before we close out? And if there's anybody interested in the replay or further down the track, 6 months down the track, perhaps you can just make sure that you go through the comments and find the link to Meredith, and I better make sure that, yeah, Meredith, sorry,
Yep.
checking the
I
name.
got my many names.
Yes, and it's,
Max,
I've
Mary,
seen this book.
Meredith.
Yeah, I've seen this book down at the market, and it does look a bit dishevelled, and it looks as if the poor woman's been bruised in a number of places, but it's actually paint. So
Yes, it is. It doesn't come well up on the screen.
it looks as if you've been through a very traumatic experience.
Yeah, it was a fun afternoon making that picture, actually. A friend of mine was throwing paint at me until we got the right effect. So, yeah, I'm trying to get the right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the blue around there, you would take it for a very bad bruising.
You would, wouldn't you? Yeah. Not the intention.
No, it is. And I must at some point, I did promise to buy one when I was down there. Unfortunately, like all good things, I got involved in what I was doing and didn't get back to do it. So I'll catch up with you at some point. And that's another thing that I would like to try and get going. As I mentioned to you, there's a number of people I knew that do books for different reasons, and I would really like to maybe do a show, or maybe start with a show with 4 or 5 artists, and you can make notes and compare if you'd like to be a part of that.
Fantastic. Yeah, love to be in that.
All right, I will again put this on my long list of things that I must do. A show
so the book is
based
Creative Rebel, and it's available on my website, which is innerseecreative.com.au, and it's also available on Amazon.
Very popular author, got Amazon behind her. Well, I would like to say thank you very much, Meredith, for your time and efforts in talking to the people. I hope they've got out of it something that they wanted. And I hope that those that are going to be watching in the replay will also get a great deal of information out of it, and you will get a lot of contact, hopefully. Please let me know how it gets on. Just stay in the lobby if you will, and I'll try and catch up with you once I've closed out.
No worries. Thanks, Roy. Thanks for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 3 minutes left, and I probably won't take 3 minutes to get through all of this. But next week, we hopefully will have Callista Clarizia on board, and she will be talking about Ayurvedic medicines and the like, and the health aspects of Ayurvedic medicines. Later on down the track, we are still looking for somebody to help us out with cannabinoid information. The university seem to have a lot of lecturers who are willing to talk their ears off, but they are not willing to come on a broadcast and actually say it to the public for fear of liabilities. I'm not sure who else I can contact, but if anybody out there knows somebody that can bring us some information on the new regulations and the new uses for cannabinoids, I would absolutely love to hear about it. And we have had a reply from the person who was in America who was talking about 5G radiations and the like, and that person has also declined from coming on the broadcast. It seems that she has had some legal aspects in America that are taking up her time on this, and she is somewhat afraid that the outcomes may be similar here in Australia if she broadcasts too much here. As this goes international over a long period, there may be repercussions. So we're still looking for somebody here that's willing to come on and talk about 5G radiation, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Thank you very much for your time and effort to joining us this evening. I hope that you've been entertained by our guest. And please, if you have the opportunity, share and tell the family about the show so that we can get more people on board. Check out Meredith's page. We've put it up in the comments. You're more than welcome to tap into that and keep Meredith busy over the next week with a multitude of questions on where she's doing things, where the workshops are, and can my child or can my son or daughter or myself come along for a problem that I have. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I hopefully look forward to seeing you next week as we talk to Callista Clarizia. Thank you very much. I'm Roy Fensom from Healing Within, and we will catch you next week.